fans get that real sports talk. And just real quick, can you like this video, share it, and leave a comment so I can keep giving you guys this content? So, for today's topic, I wanted to talk about something that it's been happening in the NFL, and for me personally, it's been just driving me crazy. And this is something that's hurting the sport, but at the same time, there's not really much you can do about it. Yet, it's also showing something that most people don't want to admit either. Is it just me, or does it seem like every week someone's going down with a gruesome season ending injury, especially at the quarterback position? The most protected player in the NFL, but still a lot of the main stars are going down with injuries. And I'm hearing a lot of people say that the rules need to be changed even more than what's been done already. But the only problem that I have with the idea is that if you continue to keep messing with the rules, eventually you're just going to get flag football. And I don't know about you, but for me, if football ever gets to the point where it's basically flag football, then I definitely would be done with it for sure. I watch football for the big hits, the passion, the intensity, the fight, and just watching the chess game between offense and defense and special teams. It's truly a beautiful sport, but the biggest problem is the injuries. And realistically, no matter how much you try to prevent them, you just can't. Remember when the NFL and basically all of football brought these new concussion proof helmets? They were supposed to help a lot of the concussions that were going on with having extra padding in the helmet, but obviously they can't prevent concussions 100%. But they were still something the NFL implemented to help keep the players safe. Yet, even with that, guys still get concussions. So, I say that to say that there's just certain things that you can't prevent. And because football is a collision sport, you can't prevent collisions that will eventually create injuries. Even though you can't prevent injuries in general, for me, something I cannot stand in football, and for me, it's a specific tackle that I can't stand and I hate it, and that's the hip drop tackle. That's the same technique that broke Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard's fibula. Let me paint a picture for you about how the technique is used. So, what happens is usually the defender is beat or they're behind their um, the opposing opponent they're trying to tackle, and they're chasing behind that player. And I usually see it when a player crosses the face of the defender and is about to go upfield. The defender is close and fast enough that they can grab onto the offensive player from behind and then basically drop all their weight so they can hold on to them in order to tackle them. But what happens is basically the defender is pulling the offensive player backwards while propelling their body forward and on top of their legs as the offensive player is running. And it looks very similar to the horse collar technique that the NFL banned. So let's look at some hip drop tackles so we can see exactly what I'm talking about when I say it's similar to a horse collar, but it's not. Let's take a look. So you see that specific tackling technique, the hip drop. I cannot stand it and it almost always leads to some type of injury. And this year, Ravens tight end Mark Andrews suffered a cracked fibula because of that specific hip drop technique and is out for the season. It's unfortunate, but how can you really stop it? I can understand if they ban that play or that tackle, and personally, I wouldn't be mad. But then it's going to put more and more pressure on the defense to think, even when it comes to making a tackle, especially if you're beat, your whole in your mindset, you just want to get the guy down, and you can't horse collar, and if you can't hip drop as well, then it just puts that added pressure on the defense. And I'm not saying that the defense can adjust. I'm just saying that the offense is already getting so much leeway and favoritism that you can't make it even more skewed to the offense because they're already getting so much of an advantage. But again, that's my opinion. Injuries in the NFL, especially among stars, is just getting out of hand. Let's look at this graphic and see how the major injuries of the season are going so far. Let's pull up the graphic. So this is the graphic of all the quarterbacks that are out for the season, and this was probably I think a couple weeks ago. So for the notable injured quarterbacks this season, and these are like I said, season-ending injuries. Joe Burrow out with a wrist injury for the season. Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. Daniel Jones tore his ACL. Kenny Pickett, he messed up his ankle, but he's not out for the season. Anthony Richardson had the shoulder surgery. Uh, I don't know why they they did this. To Aaron Rodgers saying that they didn't want to make it sound like he's going to be out this season. Aaron Rodgers not playing this year. I'll just say that right now. He tore his Achilles. He not playing this year. If he plays this year, it's he gonna waste another year trying to get back on the field. So I'm gonna chalk it up as out for the season. Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson, he had shoulder surgery, is going to be out for the year. One, two, three, four, five, six major quarterbacks that are going to be out for the season, and a majority of them, I see the guys that I think could have been a threat are all in the AFC. The Joe Burrow, the Deshaun Watson, and Anthony Richardson's rookie, and Aaron Rodgers. Those are all the guys that could have been a threat in the AFC. So it's really hard seeing a lot of injuries. But yeah, a lot of guys, a lot of quarterbacks out for the season this year specifically. So we see, especially for this year, that injury bug is no joke, especially for quarterbacks. But on the flip side, we're seeing something at least a little bit positive in the NFL, where we're seeing a lot of guys step up and change the dynamics for their team. For example, if you look at the Cowboys, their star corner Trayvon Diggs and linebacker Van Der Esch went down this season for the year. Trayvon tore his ACL, and I believe week 3 or 4 during practice, and Leighton Van Der Esch hurt his neck against San Francisco. And you'd think that the Dallas defense would be severely hindered by losing two starters, but that's not the case. They've had their cornerback, Jerron Bland, come out of nowhere, and now he holds the record for the most pick sixes in a season. So when Diggs comes back, the depth at corner is going to be even scarier with Diggs at one and Deron Bland at two. And with Leighton Vander Esch going down, it allowed for the defensive coordinator Dan Quinn to kind of reinvent the defense and give Marquise Bell a shot to play linebacker, even though originally he's a safety. And because he's a safety, this allows the Cowboys to play more of a nickel heavy defense and allow them to have a faster ball hawk at linebacker. And he has an easier time covering running backs and tight ends, which makes the defense even more productive to allow the pass rush to get home as they play way, way more man coverage. The only issue is the run defense isn't as good, but there's always a trade off when injuries happen. It just, things happen. It is what it is. Football is a dangerous sport. And in all reality, it's just been a bad year when it comes to injuries. There's been a lot of issues, especially that couldn't be prevented. And I don't think the main solution that's been floating around from a lot of people and a lot of teams is just to go to grass. That's the key to preventing all these injuries. I don't think that's the solution. But I do think that the NFL has to figure out how to get the right surface, especially for the non-contact injuries, where you're seeing guys where they'll tear their Achilles, uh, but nobody was around. Like I've seen that a couple times where someone's just either getting out of a break and then boom, they just pop their Achilles. But again, you won't prevent it completely, but there should be an effort made to make sure that everyone is protected without wholesale changing the rules to sway it more and more to the offense and getting rid of the essence, which is football. We want to see the big hits, plain and simple, but nobody wants to see anyone get hurt to the point that their careers are in jeopardy each year. That's just my opinion. It is what it is. All these crazy injuries just drive me crazy. But again, just my opinion. Thank you so much for watching today's episode here at the Fanatics Forum, the sports podcast where we give you that real sports talk from the fans' perspective. I'm your host, Mecca Mike, and don't forget to follow me on X, aka Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so I can keep giving you this unfiltered content. Thank you again, and see you next time. I'm out.